The ships came on a Tuesday morning. Was drinking coffee on her balcony in Seoul when the sky turned dark. She looked up and saw something that made her drop her cup. A massive shadow covered the sun. It was not a cloud. It was metal. It was alive with lights. It was a ship bigger than anything she had ever imagined. Across the world, 300 alien vessels appeared above every major city. New York, Tokyo, London, Moscow, Cairo. They hung in the air like gods looking down at insects. They said nothing. They did nothing. They simply waited. For 3 days, the world held its breath. Then the aliens spoke. A hologram appeared in the center of every city. The creature was tall and thin with gray skin. It had 3 mouths that moved at different times when it talked. Its eyes were black and empty like deep space. It called itself Ambassador Loris, and it spoke in perfect English, perfect Korean, perfect every language at the same time. "People of Earth," it said, "you have been found." The message was simple. The galactic hegemony had ruled the stars for 50,000 years. 12 ancient species controlled everything. They had laws, they had order, and they had one rule that never changed. New species must kneel, or they must die. Earth had 7 days to surrender. All weapons must be destroyed. All armies must dissolve. All governments must step down. Humans would become workers in hegemony space. They would dig mines on distant moons. They would build ships for their new masters. They would serve until they were no longer useful. "This is not a negotiation," Ambassador Loris said with its 3 smiling mouths. "This is a fact. You will kneel or you will be erased. You have 7 days." The hologram disappeared. Panic spread like fire. People ran through streets. Stores were emptied in hours. Governments held emergency meetings. Religious leaders called it the end of days. Scientists studied the ships and found technology they could not begin to understand. World leaders appeared on television. They spoke of peace. They spoke of hope. They spoke of humanity's will to survive, but their eyes were afraid. Their voices were shaking. They knew the truth that everyone knew. Earth could not fight. Earth could not win. Earth would kneel. Or so the aliens believed. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, there was a place that did not exist on any map. It had no name. It had no record. If you searched every government database in the world, you would find nothing. But it was real. It was waiting. And inside it, 14 people sat around a black table. Admiral Wu sat at the head. He was 63 years old with gray hair and calm eyes. He had never raised his voice in 30 years. He never needed to. When he spoke, people listened. "Show me," he said quietly. A hologram appeared above the table. It showed Earth. Then it showed something else. Hidden inside asteroids, buried under oceans, waiting in the dark side of the moon, ships, thousands of them. 4,200 vessels, said Dr. Park. She was small and tired. She had not slept well in 40 years. Her life's work floated in that hologram. All armed, all ready. General Ho laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had waited his whole life for this moment. 60 years, he said. 60 years we prepared, and they think we are cattle. Moon sat in the shadows. She ran intelligence. She knew secrets that would break minds. I have accessed their communications, she said. They think we are primitive. They have not fought a real war in 8,000 years. Their soldiers carry weapons they have never fired. Admiral Wu nodded slowly. He looked at each face around the table. These were the people who had carried humanity's secret for decades. Scientists who had built impossible weapons. Soldiers who had trained in darkness. Spies who had prepared for an enemy that had not yet arrived. The enemy had arrived now. In 1987, Admiral Wu said, we intercepted alien signals. We learned we were not alone. We learned that something was coming, and we decided that humanity would never be slaves. He stood up. We built the Armada in secret. We developed weapons they cannot imagine. We trained soldiers they will never forget. And we waited. He walked to the window. Outside there was only rock and darkness, but somewhere above, alien ships floated over Seoul. Somewhere above, Ambassador Loris smiled with three mouths and believed humanity was broken. "The world thinks we will kneel," Admiral Wu said. "Let them think it. Let the aliens think it. Let everyone believe that Earth is defeated." He turned back to his people. "In 7 days they will learn the truth." Was at that table. She was not drinking coffee anymore. She wore a captain's uniform. The Blackout was her ship. It was the deadliest vessel humanity had ever built. It waited for her beneath the Pacific Ocean. "Sir," she said, "what are your orders?" Admiral Wu looked at her with those calm eyes. "For now, we wait, we watch, we let them believe they have won." A small smile crossed his face. "And then we show them what humanity really is." The meeting ended. The 14 people left to make final preparations. Ships were checked. Weapons were loaded. Soldiers said goodbye to families who did not know where they were going. Above the Earth, Ambassador Loris sent a message to High Overlord. "The humans are broken," it reported. "They cry and beg and pray. They will surrender before the deadline. They are nothing." High Overlord received this message in the golden halls of Prime. He had ruled the hegemony for 300 years. He had seen 100 species kneel. He expected nothing different from Earth. "Good," he replied. "Prepare the slave ships. These humans will be useful in the mines." He did not know about the bunker beneath the mountains. He did not know about the 4,000 ships waiting in darkness. He did not know that 60 years ago, a small blue planet had intercepted his signals and decided to prepare. The galaxy had ruled with fear for 50,000 years. It had never met a species like humanity. In 7 days, everything would change. Admiral Wu returned to his quarters. He looked at a photograph on his desk. It showed him as a young man standing with his father. His father had been one of the first to receive the intercepted signals. He had died 20 years ago, never knowing if the enemy would come. "They came, father," Wu whispered, "and we are ready." He closed his eyes. 6 days remained. 6 days of pretending to be weak. 6 days of letting the aliens smile and laugh and believe they had won. Then the 7th day would come. And the galaxy would burn. The first day after the ultimatum was chaos. People filled the streets with signs. Some demanded war. Others begged for peace. Governments argued with each other. The United Nations held emergency meetings that lasted through the night. Television showed politicians making speeches. None of them knew what to do. All of them were afraid. Ambassador Loris watched from its ship above Seoul. It had done this many times before. The pattern was always the same. First came denial, then came anger, then came bargaining. Finally came acceptance. Every species followed the same path. Humans would be no different. "They are predictable," Loris reported to Commander, who led the military fleet. "Give them time, they will break." Commander was not as patient. He was a soldier, not a diplomat. His scales were dark blue and his 4 arms were built for war. "We should crush them now," he said. "Why wait?" "Because fear is better than force," Loris replied. "Let them stew in terror. Let them imagine what we will do. By the 7th day they will kneel without us firing a single shot." Commander grunted but said nothing. He would follow orders. He always did. But he kept his weapons ready just in case. On the surface, Earth played its role perfectly. Diplomats from every nation contacted the alien ships. They pleaded for mercy. They offered resources. They asked what humans could do to avoid destruction. Ambassador Loris smiled with 3 mouths and said nothing helpful. It enjoyed watching them squirm. Religious leaders called for prayer. Scientists went on television and explained how powerful the alien technology was. "We cannot fight them," one expert said with tears in his eyes. "Their ships are beyond anything we understand. If we resist, we will die." Nobody disagreed. How could they? The alien vessels were miles long. Their weapons had never been tested because no one had ever dared to challenge them. The hegemony had ruled for 50,000 years. Earth had only discovered electricity 150 years ago. It seemed hopeless. But beneath the surface, something different was happening. Moon had not slept in 4 days. Her eyes were red. Her hands were shaking from too much coffee, but she was smiling. She sat in a dark room filled with screens. Each screen showed something the aliens would never want her to see: fleet positions, communication codes, command structures. Every secret the hegemony had kept for thousands of years was now in her hands. "How did you do it?" asked Sung, the young lieutenant who assisted her. "Their security is old," Moon explained. "They have not updated it in centuries. Why would they? No one has challenged them in 8,000 years. They became lazy." She tapped a screen. "Dr. Park gave me quantum encryption keys 50 years ago. I have been waiting to use them." Sung stared at the data flowing across the screens. "Do they know?" "No, they think their communications are private. They are discussing us like we are animals." She pulled up a message. "Listen to this." A voice played. It was Commander. "The humans are weaker than expected. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships are slow. This will be the easiest conquest in hegemony history." Sung felt his blood grow hot. "They think we are nothing." "Good," Moon said. "Let them think it." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Captain walked through her ship. The blackout was a monster. It was 2 kilometers long and shaped like a blade. Its hull was covered in material that absorbed every kind of radiation. No scanner could see it. No sensor could find it. It was invisible. Inside, 600 crew members worked in silence. They had trained for this mission their entire lives. Most of them had never seen their families. Most of them had given up everything for this moment. Stopped at a weapons bay. Rows of torpedoes hung from the ceiling like sleeping dragons. Each one was painted black. Each one carried a weapon called nullfire. Dr. Park had invented nullfire 40 years ago. She was a genius. She was also haunted by what she had created. "One torpedo can collapse spacetime around its target," remembered explaining. "The target does not explode. It simply stops existing. Every atom is erased from the universe." Touched one of the torpedoes. It was cold. It was silent. It was death waiting to wake up. "Captain," a voice came from behind her. She turned. Lieutenant Sung stood there. He looked nervous. He was only 24 years old. He had joined the secret program when he was 18. He had never known a normal life. "What is it, Lieutenant?" "Are we really going to do this?" he asked. "Are we really going to fight them?" Looked at him for a long moment. She remembered being his age. She remembered asking the same questions. "Yes," she said simply, "we are. But they have 300 ships above us. They have technology we have never seen. They have." "They have never fought us," interrupted. "They have conquered species that gave up, species that believed they could not win. They have never met humans." Sung swallowed. "What makes us different?" Smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had accepted what was coming. "We have been fighting each other for 10,000 years," she said. "We have invented 1,000 ways to kill. We have survived plagues and wars and disasters that should have ended us. Every time we fell, we got back up. Every time someone told us we could not win, we won anyway." She put her hand on his shoulder. "That is what makes us different. We do not know how to give up." On the 5th day, Admiral Wu gathered his commanders. They met in a holographic chamber. 14 faces appeared in a circle. Each one led a part of the hidden Armada. Each one was ready for orders. "Intelligence confirms the enemy fleet position," Wu said. "They are confident. They are relaxed. They believe we will surrender tomorrow." General Ho spoke up. "My ground forces are ready. 50,000 soldiers in exoskeletons. We can take any target you name." Dr. Park added, "Nullfire torpedoes are loaded on all ships. The enemy has no defense against them. They do not even know they exist. Moon pulled up a map of the galaxy. 12 worlds were highlighted. These are the hegemony. If we strike Earth's fleet and stop there, they will send more. We must hit all 12 worlds at the same time. Total shock. No time to respond. Admiral Wu nodded. That is the plan. We will divide into 12 strike groups. Each group will hit within 48 hours of the first attack. One commander raised a concern. Sir, we will be spread thin if one group fails. Then that group dies with honor, Wu said calmly. This is not a battle we can fight twice. We strike hard, we strike everywhere, and we do not stop until the hegemony is broken. Silence filled the chamber. Everyone understood. There was no backup plan. There was no retreat. They would win completely or die completely. Send the signal to all ships, Wu ordered. Tomorrow at dawn we rise. That night, Captain sat alone in her quarters. She held a small photograph. It showed her parents, now dead for 15 years. They had never known about the Armada. They had never known their daughter commanded humanity's greatest weapon. They had died believing the world was normal. I wish you could see this, she whispered. I wish you could know what we built. She put the photograph away. Tomorrow everything would change. Tomorrow the galaxy would learn that humanity was not cattle. Tomorrow the silence would end. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Above the earth, Ambassador Loris prepared its victory speech. It had already chosen which humans would make the best slaves. It had already planned the mining operations. It had already reported to High Overlord that Earth was conquered. The seventh day was coming. The aliens smiled. They did not see the darkness rising beneath them. The seventh day arrived with a beautiful sunrise. Golden light spread across Seoul. Birds sang in the trees. The air was fresh and cool. It would have been a perfect morning except for the alien ships that still blocked the sky. Ambassador Loris descended from its vessel in a small shuttle. It landed in the center of Plaza, where thousands of cameras waited. World leaders stood in rows, their faces tired and defeated. Billions of people watched on screens around the globe. Loris walked slowly toward the human leaders. Its three mouths smiled. Its black eyes showed nothing but satisfaction. This was its favorite moment. The moment when a species finally broke. People of Earth, Loris announced. Your 7 days have ended. Do you accept the terms of the galactic hegemony? Do you kneel? The world held its breath. The Secretary General of the United Nations stepped forward. He was an old man with white hair and trembling hands. He held a piece of paper. On behalf of all humanity, he began, his voice cracking. We. Every screen in the plaza went black. Every screen on Earth went black. Ambassador Loris frowned. What is this? For 10 seconds there was only darkness. Then the screens flickered back to life. But they did not show the plaza. They showed something else entirely. A man stood on the bridge of a warship. He wore a black uniform with no medals, no decorations. His gray hair was neat. His eyes were calm. My name is Admiral Wu, he said. I speak for Earth. Laura stared at the screens in confusion. This was not part of the plan. This was not how surrender worked. You gave us 7 days, Admiral Wu continued. You expected us to use that time to accept our fate. You expected us to cry and beg and prepare for slavery. He paused. We used it differently. Above the planet, Commander watched the broadcast from his flagship. He felt something he had not felt in centuries, a small, cold sensation in his stomach. What is happening? He demanded. His crew had no answer. Admiral Wu smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator that had finished waiting. You see, Ambassador, we have known about you for 60 years. We intercepted your signals. We studied your technology. We learned everything about your hegemony, and we decided something very simple. He leaned toward the camera. We will never kneel. Space around Earth began to change. It started slowly, a shimmer here, a ripple there, then reality itself seemed to tear open. Ships appeared from nothing. They came from asteroid fields that had seemed empty. They rose from ocean trenches that had seemed dead. They emerged from the dark side of the moon where nothing should have survived. 4,200 vessels materialized around Earth in less than 60 seconds. The hegemony fleet had 300 ships. They were massive. They were ancient. They had never lost a battle. They were surrounded. Commander stared at his sensors. His forearms went limp. His scales turned pale. "That is impossible," he whispered. "They cannot have a fleet. Our scans showed nothing. Our intelligence said." "Your intelligence was wrong," his second officer said with a shaking voice. On the surface, Ambassador Laura stumbled backward. Its three mouths hung open. Its black eyes showed something new, fear. "You cannot do this," it said. "You cannot fight the hegemony. No one fights the hegemony. No one has fought us in 8,000 years." Admiral Wu appeared on every screen in the galaxy. Not just Earth, every hegemony world, every slave colony, every space station. His face was broadcast to 100 billion eyes. 8,000 years, he repeated. 8,000 years since you fought a real war. 8,000 years since your soldiers faced an enemy that would not surrender. 8,000 years since you felt fear. His voice hardened. That ends now. Captain sat on the bridge of the blackout. Her crew was silent. Their hands were steady on their controls. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. "Captain," Lieutenant Sung said, "we have target lock on the enemy flagship." Nodded. Her heart was beating fast, but her voice was calm. She ordered. The blackout appeared directly behind Commander's flagship. It materialized like a ghost from the void. Its black hull absorbed all light. Its weapons glowed with terrible energy. Commander saw it on his sensors. He tried to turn his ship. He tried to raise shields. He tried to do anything. He had 4 seconds. "Fire," said. A null-fire torpedo launched from the blackout. It crossed the distance in less than a heartbeat. It struck the enemy flagship dead center. There was no explosion. There was no fire. The flagship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment it was gone. Every atom erased from reality. Commander died without understanding what had killed him. The Battle of Earth had begun. The human fleet attacked with precision that the hegemony had never seen. They moved in perfect coordination. They targeted engines first, then weapons, then bridges. They did not waste ammunition. They did not miss. General Ho led assault teams that boarded enemy vessels. His soldiers wore exoskeletons that made them unstoppable. They moved through alien corridors like machines of war, cutting down everything in their path. Dr. Park watched from the command center beneath the mountains. Her screens showed null-fire torpedoes erasing ship after ship. She had created those weapons. She had spent 40 years building instruments of death. "Forgive me," she whispered to no one, "but this was necessary." Moon coordinated intelligence from her dark room. She intercepted every enemy communication. She knew what the hegemony commanders were thinking before they thought it. "Their formation is breaking," she reported. "They are trying to retreat." Admiral Wu's voice came through the speakers. "Do not let them escape. If even one ship gets away, they will warn the—" Captain pushed the blackout forward. Her ship cut through space like a blade through water. Enemy vessels tried to run. She caught them one by one. Lieutenant Sung fired weapon after weapon. His hands were shaking, but his aim was true. "Captain," he said, "I cannot believe this is happening." "Believe it," replied. "This is what we were born for." The battle lasted 11 hours. When it was over, not a single hegemony ship remained intact. 300 vessels destroyed. 60,000 aliens dead. The sky above Earth was filled with debris and fire. Ambassador Loris was captured in Seoul. It was brought to Admiral Wu in chains. Its 3 mouths could not form words. Its black eyes could not understand what it was seeing. How it finally managed. How did you hide this? Admiral Wu looked at the creature that had threatened his world. You saw us fighting each other, he said. You saw our wars, our violence, our cruelty. You thought that made us weak. He stepped closer. It made us strong. Every war taught us something. Every battle made us better. And when you came, you gave us something we never had before. What? Loris whispered. A common enemy. Admiral Wu turned away. Take it to the brig. I want it alive. It will deliver a message for us. Outside, the Armada regrouped. Ships were refueled. Weapons were reloaded. Soldiers rested for the next phase. The Battle of Earth was won. But the war was just beginning. 12 awaited. And humanity had 48 hours to strike them all. The Armada split into 12 parts like a beast with 12 claws. Each strike group carried 350 ships. Each had orders to hit a hegemony. Each commander knew that failure meant death, not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. Admiral Wu led the attack on Prime, the capital. Captain and the Blackout flew at the front of his fleet. Lieutenant Sung had not slept since the Battle of Earth, but his eyes were sharp and his mind was clear. General Ho commanded the ground forces. 50,000 soldiers waited in transport ships, ready to descend on alien cities and end the war forever. As the Armada traveled through space, Moon sent one final message to every ship. The hegemony thinks we will stop at defense, she said. They think we will wait and negotiate. They do not understand humans. They do not understand what we do when someone threatens our home. She paused. Show them. Prime was beautiful. It was a world of golden towers and crystal oceans. High Overlord had ruled from there for 300 years. His palace floated above the clouds. His servants numbered in the millions. He was eating breakfast when the alarm started. What is that noise? He demanded. Turn it off. His advisor ran into the room with terror on its face. Overlord, ships have entered the system. Human ships, thousands of them. Laughed, his laugh echoed through the golden halls. Impossible. The humans are primitives. Our fleet above their world will crush them. Overlord, the advisor said with a trembling voice. Our fleet is gone. Every ship destroyed. The humans are broadcasting video of the battle. They are showing the galaxy what they did. Stopped laughing. His ancient face grew pale. For the first time in 300 years he felt fear. Raise the orbital defenses, he ordered. Call every ship in the system. We will stop them here. But the defenses were old. The ships were slow. The soldiers had never fired weapons in real combat. The humans had spent 60 years preparing for war. Captain guided the Blackout toward the orbital defense grid. It was a ring of weapons platforms around the planet. Each platform could destroy a city. Together, they should have been unstoppable. Lieutenant, she said calmly, analysis. Sung studied his screens. 17 platforms, each with heavy plasma cannons. Estimated response time, 40 seconds after we enter range. How long do we need? With null-fire torpedoes, 17 seconds. Allowed herself a small smile. Then we have time to spare, fire at will. The Blackout launched 17 torpedoes in rapid succession. Each one found its target. Each platform simply ceased to exist. The defensive ring vanished in less than half a minute. Orbital grid down, Sung reported. Path to the surface is clear. Admiral Wu's voice came through the speakers. All ships begin landing operations. Ground forces prepare for deployment. General Ho stood in the cargo bay of his transport. Around him, soldiers in black exoskeletons checked their weapons one final time. They were not ordinary soldiers. They had been trained since childhood. They knew no fear. They knew no mercy. Listen carefully, Ho said. Our target is the High Chamber. We take Overlord alive. We do not harm civilians. We do not destroy what we do not need to destroy. His voice hardened. But anyone who fights us dies. Understood? 5,000 voices answered as one. Yes, General. The transports descended through the clouds of Prime. The golden towers grew larger. The alien citizens looked up and saw nightmares falling from the sky. The hegemony guards tried to stop them. They formed lines outside the palace. They raised weapons they barely knew how to use. They had been ceremonial guards for generations. They had marched in parades. They had looked impressive. They were not ready for what came next. General Ho was the first to hit the ground. His exoskeleton absorbed the impact. He stood 8 feet tall in his armor. His gun was the size of a small cannon. He walked toward the palace like death itself. "Move," he said to the guards. They fired at him. Their shots bounced off his armor like rain off a mountain. He did not slow down. I said move. He raised his weapon and fired once. A guard vanished in a flash of light. The others dropped their weapons and ran. Inside the High Chamber, watched on screens as his world fell apart. Human soldiers moved through his palace. His guards surrendered or died. His advisors fled or hid. He was alone. The doors exploded inward. General Ho walked through the smoke. Behind him came 20 soldiers in black armor. They spread through the chamber, securing every corner. Tried to stand tall. He tried to look like the ruler he had been for 300 years. "You cannot do this," he said. "I am the High Overlord. I rule this galaxy. My ancestors ruled before me. We are eternal." Ho stopped in front of him. His face was hidden behind his helmet, but his voice was clear. "Your ancestors conquered species that could not fight back. You ruled because no one challenged you. You thought you were gods." He grabbed by his robes and lifted him off the ground. "You are not gods. You are nothing." The same scene played out across 12 worlds. Strike Group 3 hit the manufacturing world of. They destroyed shipyards that had built hegemony vessels for 10,000 years. Dr. Park's null-fire torpedoes erased factories the size of small moons. Strike Group 7 attacked the military academy on. General Ho's soldiers captured officers who had never seen real combat. They surrendered within an hour. Strike Group 12 reached the oldest hegemony world, where the original alliance had been formed 50,000 years ago. The ancient temples fell. The sacred monuments crumbled. History ended in fire. Moon made sure every moment was broadcast. Every battle, every surrender, every falling tower. Across the galaxy, enslaved species watched in shock. The who had been slaves for 3,000 years. The who had forgotten their own history. The who had given up hope generations ago. They watched as humans did what no one had done in 50. They watched as the masters fell. On Prime, Admiral Wu stood in the conquered palace. High Overlord knelt before him in chains. The ancient ruler's face was wet with tears. "I do not understand," whispered. "You are so young, your species is so young. How did you do this?" Admiral Wu looked down at him. "Because we never stopped fighting," he said. "Because we never forgot what it means to struggle. Because when we saw your fleets above our world, we did not think about surrender. We thought about how to win." He walked to the window. Outside, human ships filled the sky of a world that had never known conquest. "You ruled with fear," Wu continued. "You crushed everyone who stood against you. You thought fear would last forever." He turned back. "It does not. Fear fades, anger remains, and when anger finds strength, empires fall." Lowered his head. He had no words left. Across 12 worlds, the hegemony fell in 48 hours, just as Admiral Wu had planned, just as humanity had prepared for 60 years. The Battle of Earth had been the beginning. This was the end of an era, and the beginning of something new. The fires died slowly across 12 worlds. Admiral Wu ordered his forces to stop. Military targets were destroyed. Governments were dismantled. But the killing ended. The burning stopped. Human soldiers put away their weapons and began something different. They began to rebuild. High Overlord sat in a cell on the conquered planet that bore his name. The Golden Palace was now a command center. Human officers walked through halls where only hegemony rulers had walked for. Admiral Wu visited him on the third day after the fall. Looked up with hollow eyes. He had not eaten. He had not slept. His ancient mind could not accept what had happened. "Why am I alive?" he asked. "Your species has every reason to kill me. I threatened your world. I called you cattle. I planned to make you slaves." Wu sat across from him. Between them was a small table with 2 cups of tea. "Because we are not you," Wu said simply. "I do not understand." "I know." Wu pushed 1 cup toward the fallen ruler. "Drink, we have much to discuss." Stared at the tea. He had expected torture. He had expected death. He had not expected kindness. "For 50,000 years," he said slowly, "the hegemony conquered without mercy. We destroyed those who fought. We enslaved those who surrendered. We showed no weakness because weakness meant death." He looked up. "How can you show mercy? How can you not fear that we will rise again?" Wu sipped his tea. "We conquered your military. We took your worlds, but we did not destroy your people. We did not burn your cities. Do you know why?" Shook his head. "Because that would make us you. We did not fight to become the next hegemony. We fought because we had no choice. And now that we have one, we have another choice." Wu set down his cup. "We choose to be better." Across the galaxy, that choice became real. Human forces did not occupy the conquered worlds as rulers. They worked with local populations. They freed slaves. They dismantled weapons that had kept species in chains for thousands of years. Captain led the mission to There were small creatures with large eyes and gentle hands. They had been slaves longer than humanity had existed. They had built ships and weapons for the hegemony. They had been worked to death in factories for 3,000 years. When shuttle landed, they gathered in fear. They had seen human broadcasts. They knew humans were warriors. They expected new masters. Instead, walked out alone. She wore no armor. She carried no weapons. Behind her, soldiers remained in the shuttle with orders to wait. An elder approached. Its large eyes showed confusion. "You are the ones who broke the hegemony," it said in a trembling voice. "Yes," replied. "What do you want from us?" Knelt so she could look the elder in the eyes. "Nothing. We want nothing from you." But the elder could not understand. "Everyone wants something. The hegemony wanted our labor, they wanted our ships, they wanted our lives. What do you want?" Smiled softly. "We want you to be free." The elder stared at her. Around them, thousands of watched in silence. "Free," the elder repeated, as if the word was foreign. "We do not know what that means. We have never been free." "Then we will help you learn," said. She stood up and gestured to her shuttle. "We brought food, medicine, engineers who can help you rebuild. We ask nothing in return." "Why?" the elder asked with tears in its large eyes. "Why would you do this?" Thought about her parents. She thought about the years she had spent preparing for war. She thought about all the deaths she had caused in the past week. "Because someone should have helped us," she said quietly. "Long ago, when we were young and vulnerable, we were alone. No one came to save us. No one taught us. We had to learn everything ourselves through pain and war and suffering." She put her hand on the elder's shoulder. "We survived. We became strong. And now we have the power to help others who cannot help themselves." Lieutenant Sung watched from the shuttle. He had seen Captain in battle. He had seen her destroy ships without hesitation. He had thought she was made of iron. Now he understood. She was not made of iron. She was made of something stronger. She was made of purpose. The same scene repeated across hundreds of worlds. Human forces found species that had been crushed for. They found slaves who had forgotten their own languages. They found prisoners who had been born in chains and never seen the sky. They freed them all. General Ho personally liberated a prison world where the hegemony had sent political enemies. Thousands of beings from dozens of species lived in underground cells. Many had been there for centuries. Ho opened the doors himself. "You are free," he told them. "The hegemony is gone, you can go home." An old creature looked at him with eyes that had not seen sunlight in 100 years. "I do not remember where home is," it said. Ho nodded. "Then we will help you find it." Dr. Park did not celebrate the victory. She sat in her laboratory on Earth, surrounded by the weapons she had created. Nullfire torpedoes, space-folding engines, things that should not exist. Moon found her there on the 5th day. "You should be resting," said. "The war is over." Shook her head. "It is never over. I created weapons that can erase matter from existence. What happens when someone else learns how to make them? What happens when the next war comes?" Sat beside her old friend. They had worked together for 40 years. They had built humanity's secret arsenal from nothing. "That is why we must build peace," said. "Not just win wars, but make sure wars do not happen again." "Can we do that?" "I do not know," looked at the weapons around them. "But we have to try, otherwise everything we did was for nothing." Was quiet for a long moment, then she stood up. "Then I will stop building weapons," she said. "I will build something else, healing technology, food production, things that help instead of destroy." She looked at her hands, the hands that had created so much death. "Maybe I can balance the scales." On Prime, Admiral Wu announced the formation of the Terran Accord. It was not an empire. It was not a hegemony. It was an alliance of free species with Earth at the center, not as rulers but as guardians. Every species that joined would be equal. Every voice would be heard. Every world would be protected. They were the first to join. Then one by one, species that had been slaves became members of something new. High Overlord watched the ceremony from his cell. A screen showed him everything. The speeches, the signatures, the moment when a new era began. "This will not last," he said to himself. "Power corrupts. Someone will take control. Someone will become what we were." But even as he said the words, he was not sure. He had never seen anything like this. He had never seen conquerors who did not want to rule. He had never seen warriors who chose mercy. Perhaps the humans were different. Perhaps the galaxy was changing. Admiral Wu finished his speech with words that would be remembered for generations. "We did not ask for this war," he said. "We did not want this power, but we have it now and we will use it wisely, not to conquer, not to enslave, but to protect." He looked up at the stars. "The galaxy commanded us to kneel. We refused, and now we stand not as masters but as guardians. For as long as we exist, no species will kneel again. No people will be enslaved. No world will burn without answer." His voice hardened. "This is our promise. This is our purpose. And anyone who threatens this new galaxy will learn what the hegemony learned." He paused. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. And humanity does not lose. The speech ended. The ceremony concluded. The Terran Accord was born. But in the shadows smiled. "You think you have won," he whispered to the screen. "You think the danger is over, but there are things in this galaxy older than the hegemony, things that sleep in the dark between stars, things that will wake when they sense your light." He leaned back in his cell. "Enjoy your victory, humans. It will not last forever." Outside, the stars burned bright. And somewhere in the void, something ancient opened its eyes.